right, we've just walked into McMahon and Hill Bloodstock, and we are soon to see its founder, Mike McMahon, long-standing industry professional and a great friend of mine. Mike, I really appreciate you letting me come into your
Greetings, Professor.
space today. And you are the founder of this bloodstock company called McMahon and Hill, and I wondered if I could ask you how you navigated your career to get to this point, and what on a high level does McMahon and Hill do?
Long discussion there. I moved here after graduating from Cornell University. I had a business degree there. I started out pre-vet, but really didn't like chemistry that much. Did a semester, if you will, post-grad at the Irish National Stud, which is a international program that many of you may be interested in after your college. It's a kind of each breeding and racing country sends one or maybe two students to the National Stud. I was the U.S.'s delegate, if you will, in 1994. I moved here after working for Scotty Schuhofer in 1995, a Hall of Fame trainer in New York, and worked for a bit with my parents, decided that it was time to strike out on my own, came here, worked for a consulting firm called Equine Biomechanics, and then started my own consulting business in 2000, McMahon Bloodstock. In 2005, I bought a farm, Spruce Lane Farm, and in 2010 hired Jamie Hill, who later partnered with me a year later, and we formed McMahon and Hill Bloodstock. In 2010, we also started Bourbon Lane Racing Stable, which was kind of to be the focus of Jamie's involvement in the business, to start growing our partnership business. We thought there was a real niche there, and certainly we thought we could be very competitive with the models that were in place. We can talk about that more as we go along. We're here in Midway, which is great. We're only about 5 miles from my farm, which is on Hedden Road, kind of near Wallace Station for those of you who are local. And my wife is the resident veterinarian at Windstar Farm. So we've got kind of a nice group of people with different experiences, different talents, all working together to grow our business and certainly to make it more solid than the average business like us. We've got a lot going on.
That's great, Mike. I should have mentioned off the top that you are a good flat mile race from Midway University's campus.
Drive by every day.
Right here in Midway, and this is an equine finance class, as you know, and your business background, I'm sure, has played into a lot of the decisions you've made. I know you're a passionate horse person as well, but you're also a business trained.
Mm-hmm. I am. It's interesting. I mean, I kind of modeled my business after Mike Ryan's business. I saw Mike going to different sales all over the place. Initially, when I met him, I thought I guess growing up in Saratoga, we're just not exposed to the scope of the business that you see here in Kentucky. And so I knew Mike from Saratoga. My dad introduced me to him when I was really pretty young. And then when I came to Keeneland and was at the January sale for the first time, I see Mike there buying horses. And then I went to Newmarket to the December sale, and there's Mike over there buying horses. And, I started to realize that there were this group of people that were doing this high-level consulting work, and they were doing it on a national full-time basis. And so that was where I started from, is that was where I wanted to get to. Along the way, you have to figure out how you're going to make all this work. The first job, the consulting job that I had, was really good because I basically was taking all the risk for this company as one of their field consultants, and I wasn't getting a ton of other support, and I was able to move some of those accounts over to mine when I gave my notice and moved on. So from that point of view, I almost hit the ground running with a client book, and that was really important as far as that went. But I think the thing that you realize in business is that it's not always going to be that way. Just because you start out with 10 clients, you're going to one person's going to get out of the business because he buys a boat. One person, you've got age. I mean, people get out of the business just because of old age. It's definitely a luxury item, what we're consulting on. So you've always got to be reinventing your product to put it out for the next group of the next demographic, whether that's young people or partnerships or whatever you can identify. Travelers, a big thing we're going to talk about later on is the international thing. And, we've now got products for people that like to travel internationally. So, I think for me, on the business side of things, it's always been being able to put the right product in front of people, having another product available when the other product kind of gets less exciting, and keeping a lot of irons in the fire. Lots of action.
Yeah. And Mike, let's drill down a little bit, if we could, into some of the specific lines of business that McMahon and Hill is involved in. It's all thoroughbred, as far as I'm aware. But what are the main ways that this business generates revenue?
So the partnership thing is where we've gone from. Probably in 2010, I think we probably had 10 horses in partnership. And compared to now, if you look at the board over there, I think there's probably, I don't know, there's 120, I think there's 120 horses in partnership right now that are under management.
Yeah.
In addition to probably another 200 that are privately owned.
Right. So each of these would be a horse.
Yep, a horse,
And,
a location.
Yeah.
And we do this digitally too, but I like the magnets. I'm kind of old school, I like my
Yeah,
magnet board.
visualize it. And we're talking here about the Bourbon Lane partnership.
Bourbon Lane, there's Spruce Lane, the Spruce Lane mares. There's broodmare partnerships, and there's the Spruce Lane pinhook. There's weanling to yearling partnerships. And then there's the Bourbon Lane partnerships, of course, which are the racing partnerships.
All right, so talk about the structure on a high level of these partnerships, Mike, and how your company takes a fee or is rewarded for managing these partnerships.
So on the pinhook partnerships, we charge a hedge fund model, 2-20, 2% when we buy, 2% when we sell, and 20% of true net profit. That's very practical with people that are in the finance world, and that's what Wall Street likes, and so we modeled after that.
2% management fee, 20% in the hedge fund world, we would call that the carry, or the performance fee.
The performance fee, correct.
Uh-huh.
On the racing side, we charge 5% when we buy and 5% when we sell, plus 5% of revenue. We don't mark up the horses, and that is the key difference between our partnership and other partnerships, which makes us very competitive. A lot of partnerships, they'll buy a horse for $100,000, and instead of charging a 5% commission, they'll mark the horse up to $200,000 and then sell 2 to 10% units based on $200,000. So in other words, they only have to sell 50% of the horse to pay for the horse. Whatever they sell more than that is profit to the partner who put the money up, the general partner.
And Mike, when you say revenue that the horse generates, you mean purse earnings or other earnings that the horse might draw as a breeding prospect? Is that the right way to think about it?
Well, our partnerships don't go from racing to breeding. We find that our partners who join racing partnerships are definitely interested in racing. But if I said, how many of you racing people are interested in breeding, it might be less than half. So our partnerships are designed to sell after the horse's racing career. So who gets that money? So let's say we sell 3 horses at the end of their careers for $300,000. The first cut of that will be Jamie and I getting 5% management fee for those sales, and then the LLC will split the other revenue.
So the horse earns money on the racetrack. Your company has a stake in that, certainly, and then obviously the more value the horse has, maybe as a breeding prospect, the better it would sell, and you'd have a stake in that as well.
It's just more performance based.
Fantastic. And you mentioned the words LLC, or the acronym anyway. So are you, without giving away any of your trade secrets, are these LLC partnerships, or how do you structure the investment vehicles?
Yeah, they're partnerships. They're Let's see. I mean, there's 20. I mean, on average, there's 20 partners per, but we don't do a set limit. So we don't say that the LLC is going to end up at 500,000. We say we're going to aim to raise 500,000 for the yearling package. Let's say that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it ends up being 300,000, we'll go around to each partner and we'll say, okay, you've committed the minimum, which is 10,000, and so your percentage is 10,000 divided by 300,000. If you'd like to get your percentage up to 10%, you can add another 20,000. So we keep a nice kind of spreadsheet of what everybody's commitment is, and try to get everybody to a number that they're happy with and work. Once we're set, that equity doesn't change. So if the total budget ends up 300,000, to use the last example, we'll set aside money for the expenses for those horses, for the setup fees, including the insurance and so on and so forth, so that those people won't have a cash call until, well, basically, unless the horses don't run or don't race quickly. It's designed for each partnership to go a good 6 to 8 months.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In the 2-year-old partnerships, we have far fewer cash calls because we're buying horses that are ready to race, and we're trying to have them purchased without significant delays in mind.
Mm-hmm.
With the yearlings, it can take a while because you buy a horse and you think he looks like a precocious yearling, but for whatever reason, he doesn't get to the track till November, of his next year. So you're going to outrun your expense accounts. If you end up with a couple horses, 2 out of 3 like that. We like doing 3-horse partnerships because it's almost always that one of them is on the track earning money, and that again prevents cash calls. So we're always trying to manage to prevent cash calls.
Yeah.
When we do cash calls, we take the estimated money that we're going to need for the next 3 months plus any accounts payable. We will use a line of credit before we'll use a cash call, but we're not going to go too far on that. We just want to give a horse another chance to run without owing our vendors money. So we'll raise the cash call. Everybody chips in. We have very few people that don't pay their cash call. If they do, their equity percentage is going to change in the partnership because they're now going to have contributed less than pro rata than they would have before.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way that works. It works really well. I mean, I don't feel bad about sharing it. I wish everybody did it that way. It'd be so much better for people in general.
Yeah.
We do offer co-ownerships though as well. These are partnerships that are not LLCs. The reason for that is that a lot of owners, to get the tax status they want, to be active participants in the eyes of the IRS, which means you can take your losses.
Mm-hmm.
They need to have a license. They need to spend X amount of time per week on their partnership, on their horses. That all needs to be cataloged so that the IRS comes back at them on an audit and says, how did you write off $200,000 when you didn't spend any time at all in these LLCs? I mean, that's the thing. So the LLCs, you can get in, you're 2% of everything, but you really don't have any practical decision making or responsibility. Whereas in a co-ownership, you are writing checks once a month, just like everybody else, and you're on the hook, for your share of the responsibility of that deal.
Mm-hmm.
So the IRS likes that. So again, this is just another way that we've morphed. As we initially started with just LLCs, and then at the end of the day, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, co-ownerships were getting a lot more popular. In fact, I remember when Always Dreaming won the Derby, and West Point owned 2% of him in a co-ownership agreement, and that was a major thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had 100 people that owned their share of 2%, right? But you started seeing partnerships partnering, and not only would Bourbon Lane own a horse, but maybe one of our larger partners would take a quarter of the horse. So now we're on that same wavelength as the other partnerships. We're very flexible. We've got our LLC, but then we're also going to buy horses in co-ownership and under various different disguises.
Yeah. And we're kind of geeking out on the corporate structures, but it sounds like you've got a business plan. You're putting legal structure around business ventures like any other business.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm certainly aware in the LLC model, you'd have responsibilities to pass through those gains, issue K1s that your treasurer controller and CFO would generate. She's closed the door on us. Who can blame her? So yeah, you're a real business planner, and I know it's a big part of your model. So Mike, if it's okay, in the few minutes we have left, can you touch on one or two other parts of your business outside of the racing partnerships that generate revenue for your intermediary Bloodstock business here?
Well, I mean, we buy a lot of horses for racing stables and breeders. I guess that's we charge a 5% commission just to buy a horse. And so I try to buy something or sell something 3 times a week, to be honest, and that generates a lot of revenue. A lot of times when I buy something, I'll buy it on spec. We'll put that out overnight on an email. They will sell out in between 12 and 36 hours to our email list. We have about 130 active partners right now, and those people are getting those updates first on an app we use called Stable Connect, and then second by constant contact email if necessary. We have an insurance business that Jamie runs where he's insuring these horses. We've got general stable that we're managing racing stables and breeding stables for 2 private stables as well. One of whom is also a partner in Bourbon Lane. The other who is probably getting close to wrapping up, and so there's a trustee and and a power of attorney on closing up that stable, which has been ongoing for 25 years. So there's a lot to there's always a lot to do on that. I think we talked briefly about the overseas stuff. A couple of mares in Ireland now. We sold nearly $1 million horse in England 3 years ago. We sold $1 million horse in New Zealand last year. We've got about 25 horses, I think, in New Zealand right now. So that's actually become our biggest international growth area. So yeah, lots of things out there for our partners to look at.
Yeah, we love New Zealand. I've been involved, as you know, and some ventures there, and you and I almost partnered on 1 or 2 things over there. So it's quite a market, and you've sought out areas of opportunity for the benefits of your clients. So Mike, I'll wrap it up with one final kind of series of questions, which is this is a college course, a university course, and many of these students are either in the industry or trying to navigate careers as they start their careers in the industry. So what high-level advice might you give them in terms of 2 things? What kind of skills would somebody like you be looking for as you hired somebody? And then where is the industry going as far as the growth areas that the students might focus on?
So there's a huge shortage of experienced people in the business. There's a huge labor shortage in general. So it's a great time to be entering the business. I mean, from the practical hands-on side, if you're a horse person and you have good experience with horses, and if you've worked with good people and they'll recommend you that you're a self-starter and a team player and an excellent carer for horses, you can have any job in the world, and you can have a quick career path right to management level jobs in less than 5 years. So there's that. There's a huge optimism for the people that are willing to be hands-on. The management level people, if you're not the sort of person that is going to have a horse background, you're not going to physically touch the horse. It's a little harder because there's a shortage of opportunities. I mean, there's lots of opportunities, but those jobs are tough to get. So you're really going to have to think about how you're going to gain experience in order to become an attractive employee. And there are, I think doing what you're doing in the Midway program is very good. Certainly, you have to look at further steps after that. The Darley Flying Start program and the Irish National Stud and post-grad work to separate yourself out from the average person that's not going to touch a horse. And then I think the big question is, where is the industry going? I mean, we're facing big pressures right now. 4 or 5 that I can think of. I mean, there's general land pressure on ag land. So whether we're going to have as many horses has got to be a big question. There's evidence from the foal crop contracting. It's almost 50% smaller now than it was when I started. there's a question about handle. How much of the handle is generated by computer-assisted wagering versus how much is developed on track or at ADWs? Is the business healthy when you look at those? And then there's just the general question of agriculture and animals and PETA. And especially in these progressive states that are very important to our racing product, will there be racing in 25 years? So those are huge pressures. Now, they require a lot of deep thought. They require people that are experienced and people that can rationalize and explain what we're doing and not have a guilty conscience over it at all. And who can make decisions about the horse, not about a bottom line. So it's a really interesting set of business skills that you've got to develop, because it's all got to be about the horse in order to answer these critiques. And yet, as a business person, you'll have to learn how to balance that and make that special horse attachment that you no doubt have fit with how you're going to feed your family and how you're going to get this industry to grow, or at least to stabilize. So there's a lot of challenges, but there's a lot of optimism for talented kids like you guys, and I hope that you will not be daunted by the challenges.
Well, that means a lot coming from you, Mike. I should have made a point of highlighting all these trophies and winner's circle pictures, and you've brought a lot of joy to a lot of your partners, but a lot of economic success as well. So these are really, really important words for everybody to hear. And we may even, this class, work on a project for you too, which we talked a little bit about. So
I'm excited about that. That'll be fun.
Yeah, we look forward to doing that, Mike. And I just can't thank you enough for spending all this time. And it's always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much, Mike.
Great. Hope to meet you guys soon.